We poured every spare dollar into her college fund for 18 years, Daniel told me. And now Priya's terrified to retire, and I don't know how to tell her I'm terrified too. The average family that heavily prioritizes a child's college fund over retirement savings ends up needing 7 to 10 additional working years just to catch back up. Years they didn't plan on, years they didn't budget for, years that quietly eat into the rest of their life. Let that sit for a second. 10 years. That's not a rounding error. That's a decade of your one wild life, traded away, often without either partner ever actually agreeing to the trade out loud. I've spent years studying the exact moment where love and money stop being two separate conversations and become one tangled, exhausting knot. The moment a couple realizes the sacrifice they made for their kid is now a bill they're both quietly paying, alone in separate silences. And what I keep seeing over and over is this. Nobody sits down and decides, let's ruin our retirement. It happens one reasonable decision at a time. One skipped 401k match. One, we'll catch up next year. 10 years, gone. If you've ever looked at your retirement account and felt a cold drop in your stomach, if you've ever resented your own kid for a half second and then hated yourself for it, stay with me. This one's for you. And hey, if this is hitting close to home, hit subscribe. Because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why doing the right thing for your child and protecting your marriage are not the same math, and how to stop paying for one with the other. Let's start with the lie we all tell ourselves. The lie sounds noble. It sounds like love. It goes, we can always make more money for retirement later, but this is our kid's only shot at college. Sounds true, right? Basically unquestionable. Except, and I need you to really hear this, it's backwards. Your kid can get a loan for school. You cannot get a loan for retirement. Nobody's handing out federal aid for a 68-year-old with an empty savings account. That's the cruel asymmetry nobody says out loud at the dinner table. Priya knew this, on paper. She's smart. She works in accounting, for God's sake. But knowing something with your brain and feeling it in your chest are two completely different things. Every time she looked at her daughter Nadia's face, the math didn't matter. Love doesn't do math. That's not a flaw in Priya. That's just what love does to a parent. So here's the real story. Priya and Daniel started strong. 2 incomes, a modest house, a plan. When Nadia was born, they opened a college fund and started contributing $200 a month. Sensible, responsible. But somewhere around year 6, Daniel got a promotion, and instead of splitting the raise between retirement and college like they'd originally agreed, they quietly, without ever really discussing it, funneled almost all of it into the college fund. Because it felt good. Because watching that number grow felt like love made visible. Meanwhile, their 401k contributions stayed frozen, flat, for 12 years. 12 years of compound growth, gone, not spent, just never given the chance to exist in the first place. And that's the part that guts me every time I hear a story like this, because compound growth doesn't send you a warning. It doesn't nag you. It just quietly doesn't happen, year after year, and you don't feel the absence of something until you go looking for it, and it's not there. By the time Nadia turned 16, they had $94,000 saved for college, enough to feel proud, enough to post about it, low-key, in the group chat. But their combined retirement savings, barely $61,000 for 2 people in their mid-40s. That's the moment Daniel told me he did the math for the first time in years and just sat there in the car in the driveway for 20 minutes. Can you imagine that? Sitting in your own driveway, engine off, too afraid to walk inside and say the number out loud to your spouse? Here's the part nobody talks about. This isn't really a money problem. It's an identity problem. For a lot of parents, and honestly, this hits differently for mums and dads, the college fund becomes proof. Proof that you're a good parent. Proof that you sacrificed. Proof you're not like your own parents, who maybe couldn't or didn't do this for you. So when someone suggests, hey, Maybe we should scale back the college fund a little and catch up on retirement. It doesn't land as a financial suggestion. It lands as an accusation. It sounds like you don't love our kid enough. That's why these conversations turn into fights that aren't really about money at all. Leah and Kwame, a couple I talked to for another piece, actually had this blow up into a real argument. Not a quiet resentment like Priya and Daniel, but a full, doors closed, raised voices fight. Kwame wanted to redirect part of their son's fund into a Roth IRA catch-up contribution. Leah heard, "You'd rather have a comfortable retirement than give our son a real future." Neither of those things is what Kwame actually said, but that's the translation her fear ran through. And once a conversation gets translated through fear, you're not really talking to your partner anymore. You're talking to the worst version of what you imagine they think of you. Here's the thing, though, and stay with me here. Leah later told me the real fear underneath the fear. It wasn't even about their son, not really. Her own parents never had a college fund for her. She'd worked 3 jobs through school and graduated with debt that took her until her 30s to clear. So for her, that fund wasn't a line item. It was a promise to a younger version of herself that her kid would never feel what she felt. When Kwame touched that account, he wasn't touching a number. He was touching a wound, and he had no idea, because she'd never told him. That's how deep this stuff runs, and that's why the fight was never really going to be about spreadsheets. So what's the actual fix? Because I'm not here to just make you feel bad about your spreadsheet. Here's the plain language version. No jargon. Retirement savings should never dip below a baseline. For most couples, that means, at minimum, matching whatever your employer offers, because that's free money. Full stop. Before a single extra dollar goes anywhere else, including college. That's not selfish, that's structural. You put the oxygen mask on yourself first, not because you love the kid next to you less, but because you're no good to them unconscious. After that baseline is protected, then yes, save for college, save aggressively even, if that's your value. But protect the floor first. And look, I know some of you are thinking, easy for you to say, we don't have room for both. Totally fair. Money is genuinely tight for a lot of people right now. But even then, this is a conversation, not a decision one partner makes quietly at 11 p.m. while paying bills alone. That's really the core of it. It's not really about the percentages. It's about whether both people in the relationship feel like they had a vote. Because here's what actually breaks marriages. It's rarely the number itself. It's the moment one partner discovers the sacrifice was never actually agreed upon. It was assumed. Priya assumed Daniel understood why the college fund mattered so much to her. Daniel assumed Priya noticed the retirement account had gone flat and would have said something if it bothered her. Neither one said anything for 12 years. That's the quiet tragedy underneath all of this. It's not that they didn't love each other enough to talk about it. It's that they loved their daughter so specifically, so intensely, that the marriage's own financial flaw became the thing that got sacrificed without a vote. Let's talk about what this actually costs in real terms, not just feelings. 10 extra working years doesn't just mean you retire later. It means you're making major medical decisions about your own aging parents while still commuting to a job you're exhausted by. It means missing the years when your grandkids are small because you're still clocking in. It means the version of retirement you pictured, the slower mornings, the trip you always said you'd take, gets pushed so far out that by the time it arrives, your body might not want to do half of what you imagined. That's the real price tag, not a percentage, a decade of your actual life, the one you don't get a second copy of. And here's the thing that might sting a little, but I say it with love. Your kid doesn't actually want this trade. No child, once they're grown and understand what happened, wants to know their college degree cost their parents their own security, their own golden years, their own marriage's peace of mind. Nadia, when she found out, and she did find out, eventually, the way kids always do, didn't feel proud. She felt guilty. She told her mum, "I would have taken out loans. I didn't know you were doing this to yourselves." That's not the gratitude Priya was picturing when she skipped those retirement contributions. That's grief wearing gratitude's clothes. Quick gut check, and be honest with yourself here. When was the last time you and your partner actually looked at your retirement balance together? Not separately. Together, on the same screen, at the same time. If you can't remember, that's not a coincidence. That's usually where the resentment starts growing. Quietly, in the dark, where nobody's checking on it. Here's a small, doable thing you can actually do this week. Not someday. Pick one evening. No phones. Pull up both the college fund and the retirement account. Side by side. Don't discuss blame. Just say the numbers out loud, together. For the first time in maybe years. That single act, just saying the true number out loud to each other, does more to protect a marriage than any budgeting app ever will. Because secrecy, even accidental secrecy, even well-meaning secrecy, is still secrecy, and it costs a marriage more than any spreadsheet ever could. Remember what Daniel said at the start? We poured every spare dollar into her college fund for 18 years, and now Priya's terrified to retire, and I don't know how to tell her I'm terrified too. That fear wasn't really about the retirement number. It was about admitting, out loud, that love and money had gotten tangled in a way neither of them chose on purpose, and that saying it out loud might mean admitting they'd been quietly protecting each other from a conversation they both actually needed. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. Sacrifice isn't love if it isn't a shared decision. A good marriage can survive being poor. It struggles a lot more with being unseen. So talk to your partner this week. Pull up both accounts, side by side. No judgment, no blame, just two people looking at the same truth together. That's it. That's the whole first step. If this one hit you somewhere real, subscribe. Because next week, we're talking about the couple who found out, 15 years in, that one of them had been secretly funding a separate account the whole time, and what it actually meant when it finally came out. Until then, take care of the marriage first. The math will follow.